Hello and welcome. It's Alpa Pandya here, and thank you for watching this video. Today, I wanted to come on and talk to you about something and someone that's very dear to my heart. Today is a very poignant day in the personal growth industry, especially in the community that I'm in and have been for the past 8, almost 9 years now. Today is a very memorable date in people's calendar who have been following this legend in the personal growth industry, who is not just the legend in human potential, but also in business success, who I've had the privilege to work very closely with. And today is a bit of a sad day for many people who have worked closely with this legend. Of course, I'm talking about my mentor, my friend, Bob Proctor, who sadly passed away exactly 1 year ago today. It was February the 3rd when our beloved Bob Proctor transitioned and left us. And in all honesty, I still can't really believe that he's no longer here with us. I know he's of course here with us in spirit, and he always will be. But he's not here in his body form. And today I just wanted to take some time to reflect back on my memories of this great legend, a man that actually literally transformed my life in every way, shape, and form. And I just wanted to pay my respects to this man who I called the Godfather. He really was the godfather of the personal growth industry. At the age of, I believe it was 87, that he was going strong still, and the only living standing legend of our time up until, of course, this date last year. I've shared this story a couple of times. I don't think I've shared it enough times, but today I want to take some time out and really talk to you about how I met the legendary Bob Proctor, how my life has changed, and how now, through being a consultant within his company, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, setting up my own coaching company as well, helping hundreds and thousands of people globally to achieve their success, the results that they want in their life and in their business. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. It really has been a magnificent journey. There's been a lot of highs, but there's also been quite a few lows as well. And today I want to talk to you about that. I want to share this journey with you. So my journey with Bob started in August of 2014, when I actually met him for the very first time. And I met him multiple times thereafter. But it really was in August 2014. And again, I manifested meeting him, which then led to another manifestation of mine, which was actually to work with him. And it all started off by, and I think a lot of people can relate to this because, of course, if you've seen the documentary, the hit movie, The Secret, Bob was one of the main speakers in that documentary, in that film. And this was, I think, back in 2007, I think, when The Secret came out, the documentary. Of course, the book came out before that. But Bob was an established leader in the personal growth industry well before The Secret came out. As I said, he's been in the industry for 62 years. And I had never heard of him. I'd followed a lot of people in the personal growth industry, from big names like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy. There was a lot of people that I was following, Les Brown, but I'd never heard of Bob Proctor. I never had heard of him. And I think back in 2013, 14, he wasn't really well known in the UK, in England, as much as he was, of course, in America, North America. So I watched The Secret, And watching The Secret was also something that I was actually resisting, because I just thought it was just a load of woohoo stuff. And it doesn't happen like that. You can't create the life that you want. You cannot live your life by design. That was my belief back then. But I interviewed a successful music producer on my radio show. So for those of you who don't know, my background actually is in radio. I've been in radio for about 27 years. I've worked with commercial radio stations, local BBC radio stations, and national BBC radio station. And it was on BBC Asian Network when I actually interviewed a music producer. And just after the interview, he said to me, have you seen The Secret? And I said, no. He said, you should really watch it. And in those days, we didn't really have Netflix. I don't think Netflix was around, or if it was in the States. It hadn't come into the UK. So he sent me a YouTube link. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll watch it. And he said, no, you really must. I've manifested so much by watching that. And, he said, I always wanted to become a music producer, and I am very successful at it. I wanted to emigrate to Australia, and he was emigrating literally that year. So I met him in November 2013. I interviewed this music producer in November 2013, and it was actually in December he was emigrating of that year. So he kept sending me messages. Have you seen it yet? Have you seen it yet? And I was like, no. He said, you must watch it. So one day I decided to watch it, and lo and behold, so many speakers on there, great people that were on there, including somebody who I follow a lot and love and admire, Esther Hicks, Abraham, Dr. Joe Vitale. There's so many people on there, Jack Canfield, so many people that were talking about the power of the mind and how you can manifest anything you want, and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until Bob Proctor came on that I really started to take an interest, because he was starting to talk about your paradigms. And when he used that word, and that was the first time I came across that word, and I didn't even know what it was. And I was fascinated by him. I was literally in awe of him, because the way he was talking, what he was saying, and I was like, God, this man knows what he's talking about. And I just set out there and then, and this is the power of manifestation. People say, law of attraction doesn't work, or that kind of stuff. But really, it is the assumption that I made that I'm going to work with him. I'm going to meet this man, and I'm going to work with him. And I said that out aloud, without knowing that my words are going to turn into reality, because at that time I wasn't really, although I was following a lot of people in this personal growth space, didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really believe in the stuff in that sense. I didn't have a solid belief in any of it, which is why I wasn't really seeing big results in my life. So I said that with conviction, and that was in November 2013. And August 2014, I had the privilege of flying to Toronto, Canada, and to meet Bob Proctor in a seminar that he was doing. And I managed to get 15 minutes with him, because how I manifested this was another story. But to cut that story short, basically, I emailed the company, and I had to email several times. It took them 4 months for them to reply. But I said, I'm a BBC radio presenter. I want to meet Bob Proctor, and I want to interview him. And that was that. But it took them that long to reply, because he was an A-list, celebrity, if you like, in the personal growth space. And you can't just get a meeting with him just like that. There's certain protocols you need to prove who you are and all that kind of stuff, your credentials. And anyway, I got to meet him, but I had to go out on my own expense. Of course, I had to take a flight from London to Toronto, all on my expense. I had to pay for hotel fees, and so I could meet him. Because when I watched The Secret, there was some techniques that he was teaching that I started to implement, and I started to see a shift in my life. And at the time, as well as being a radio presenter and hosting a weekly show, I also used to work in a call center full time, which I absolutely hated. I was in that job for 14 years, totally hated it, and I wanted to leave that job. And it was through these techniques that I managed to leave the job. Not only leave the job, but I actually got a year's salary. So I got paid leave. And that was because I kept saying to myself that I spent 14 years in this company. I'm not just going to leave like that. I'm going to get paid for what I've given to this company. And I will get it. And it took a couple of attempts before they accepted my resignation, if you like, and they paid me a year's salary. So with that, I went to Toronto, met Bob, and my journey in the personal growth space and the manifestation space started then in August 2014. And I'm so, so grateful to that man who transformed my life. My life was in a bit of a stuck position. I was in a job that I hated. I was dragging my heels into work, although it paid well at the time, what I thought was good money. Now I know, it was nothing compared to what I earn now, but it was good money at the time. But I was emotionally drained. I was physically drained. I was mentally drained. I was controlled, and that was the biggest thing. I didn't want to be controlled. I was told when I could take my leave. I was told when I could take breaks. I was told when I could have my lunch. All these kind of things. I was missing out on family functions, celebrations, because I was working 6 days a week. Because it was a paradigm that I grew up with, that if I want to live the good life, then I've got to work all the hours that God sends. But he transformed my whole life, because when I met him, he said, "What do you want?" He said, "Alpa, what do you really, really want?" And like most people, I wanted freedom of time. I wanted to travel more, because I love traveling. It's a passion of mine to see the world in different countries and see how other people live. And we live in a beautiful, beautiful world, and there's so much to see. And I wanted to be able to do that on my terms. I wanted to be able to not just go on a week's holiday or 2 weeks holiday. I wanted to spend months in different countries. And he said, "Okay, what else do you love?" And I said, "I love helping people." And I said, "I love radio." From a very young, again, I manifested being a radio presenter. From the age of 9, 10, I knew I wanted to be a radio presenter. I used to mimic myself in the mirror and pretend I was presenting on the radio, and used to have a hairbrush as a mic. And back in those days, we had cassette players, tape recorders, and I used to record my voice, and I used to listen to it. And this was all part of manifestation, which obviously at that age, I didn't know what I was doing, but it's what we call an unconscious competent. And basically that's what I was. I knew I wanted to work for the BBC. And my very first role I call it a tea lady, because that's how I started off at the BBC. I was making teas for all the presenters. Once a week I used to go in for a couple of hours on somebody's show, and I used to make tea for everybody. So I started really down at the bottom. And then I ended up being a breakfast show presenter. I ended up working on BBC National Radio in London, where we shared studio space with BBC Radio 1. I met some amazing celebrities and people throughout my journey. But it was all part of a manifestation that at the time I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it. And maybe you can relate to that, because we're all manifesting all the time. Law of attraction is working all the time. But more powerful than that is the law of assumption as well. And that's something that I'm teaching my clients more of now. But anyway, that's for another story. Going back to what I was saying, is that I met Bob for the very first time in 2014, and he really made me think about what it is that I wanted in my life. And he said, "Why do you think you haven't got that?" And at the time, I wanted to start my own business. I always had this passion of working for myself, having my own business, but not knowing what that business was going to be in. I looked at many franchises, coffee shops and restaurants and that kind of stuff, thinking that I could start my own business that way, but nothing really materialized. And then he invited me. He said, "If you do exactly what I tell you, you'll achieve exactly what it is that you want." And I took a leap of faith, and the rest is history. As I say, I became a consultant within his organization. I didn't have the money at the time. It was a huge, huge amount of money that I had to invest in myself. Around about £20,000 I had to pay to become a consultant. And of course, I had quit my call center job. When I met Bob in August 2014, I'd already quit my call center job. I didn't really have much money apart from that year's salary that I had, which I had to live off, because I obviously had other financial commitments to pay. And so I sold some shares that I had in the company that I worked for. I borrowed money off family and I became a consultant. And then within a year, I managed to pay all that back. So that was my first memory, or the very first few memories that I had of Bob. And I manifested working with him. I manifested being a part of his company. I manifested him streaming live into one of my seminars that I did. Now, Bob was a fantastic man, but he was also a man that he didn't really give you an attention until you proved to him that you were worthy of his attention. And because I proved that I was worthy of his attention, he live streamed into one of my seminars that I did at the Leicester Marriott back in 2016. And he spent an hour with the people that were there, the delegates that were there. He did a Q&A with them. And, you know, he really was a true leader. And he really gave me his time, like he did with quite a few of his top consultants. When I met him for the very first time back in August, I don't get moved by anything, if I'm to be honest. I've met a lot of celebrities in my time as being a radio presenter. I've interviewed a lot of people. But when I met him, I cried. I had tears in my eyes. And I remember when I actually did meet him for that very first time, he was asking me what I want, and I burst out crying. And he reached out to his pocket and he handed me his handkerchief. And he said, "Here, I think you're going to need this." And I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't do this. I don't do this. You know, I hardly ever cry." And he goes, "Well, maybe you need to." He goes, "There's something there that you need to release." And he shifted something for me there, because I was in so much awe of him that I ended up in tears when I met him. You know, some people have that aura, and he really had that energy about him. It was a very pure energy. When you looked into his eyes directly, you just felt calmness. It was a beautiful, beautiful feeling. So that's the very first memories of what I had of Bob. And then, of course, I met him every year, because that was another goal of mine, to meet him a couple of times a year, to work with him. And I did. I managed to meet him every year up until 2018, I think it was, 18 or 19. And then, of course, we had the pandemic in 2020. So, you know, nobody could fly anywhere, but I met him virtually as well. We had consultant trainings that we did. I remember there was a time when I was struggling myself in my own studying. I was just going on and off from studying. And I had a recording of it. In fact, we'll play it right now. And the advice that he gave me then. So, you know, all of this I share and I will keep forever in my heart.
Hi, Alpha. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Oh, wonderful.
So my question is, can you give one tip of how to stay in the material? Because I'm finding it difficult from sticking to a study schedule. So if you can give one tip.
Where do you live?
UK.
Whereabouts?
Leicester.
Okay. Listen. I lived over there for a year, and I loved it. Now, oddly enough, I went over there. A friend of mine was from Dundee, and I worked with him. And I was thinking of moving over there. He says, "I'm going over." He says, "I'm going home for a week or two. Why don't you come with me? We'll fly into Preston, drive on up to Dundee." That's okay. But you know, when I got there, I said, "God, I don't think I want to live here." The room was cold. They heated their place with a fireplace. And then I left there and went over to London, and I was staying in a place that was cold there. And I noticed all the kinds of things that I didn't like. And then all of a sudden I thought, you know something, Proctor? The only thing wrong here is your attitude. You're looking at what you're not going to have here that you take for granted at home. Why don't you look at the things they've got here that you don't have at home? And I started to look at all those things. I loved it there. You got to shift your perception about what you're capable of doing. So rather than think of the times you started and you quit, you don't think of that. There's something that you've done that you got very good at. What's something you're very good at? I don't care what it is. It could be baking pies. It could be anything. What's something you're really good at, Alpa?
I'm good at listening to people.
That is a skill that most people don't have. Do you know that? Most people don't listen. They hear, but they don't listen. Hearing and listening are two totally different things. You hear with your ears, you listen with your emotions. You let yourself get emotionally caught up in what they're saying. And that's the only way you're ever going to understand them. If you're good at listening, you can become a phenomenal salesperson. If you listen, they'll tell you everything about themselves. They'll tell you everything they have to do. Now, I want you to make a decision right now. What time do you get up in the morning?
6:30, 7:30 sometimes.
Okay, I want you to make a commitment. You're going to start getting up at 5:30.
Okay.
I want you to get up every day at 5:30.
I've made that decision now.
And I want you to study thinking into results for an hour. And you can jump around from one thing to another. You don't have to stay with one. You listen to one video for a few minutes and then go to another one if you want. Make it interesting. And you keep bouncing around. You're going to do this every day for 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, we're going to check in together. Okay? But I want you to move an hour every morning, 5:30 to 6:30. You study thinking into results. You can study lesson 6, then you can go to 2, and then you go to 8, and you come down to 3. You listen to 3 for about 10 minutes and say, I'm going to listen to another one now. You will get that you'll know everything in that program. When you're talking to people and they point out that they have a problem in a certain area, say, you know something? I've got exactly the thing to help you there. And you know that it would be a certain tape because you're going to get to know the whole program really well. Okay? Now, at the end of every week, I want you to send an email to Corey.
Okay.
And Corey's going to send it to me. Wherever I am, I'll get it. I want a report from you how well you're doing every week for the next 4 weeks. And this includes Christmas, New Year's, everything. You're going to do this every morning. Now, I do it every morning, so I know you can do it every morning. And you're going to get so damn good at this that you're never going to want to quit it. I've been doing this for years. Okay?
Yeah, I've never wanted to quit. I've always been here.
That's history. Let it go. We're starting over today. And you got all that experience that you're bringing to the party. I want you to make up your mind between now and the end of December, you're going to become a crack shot. You are going to be an absolute star at this.
That's what I want.
Okay, every week I want you to send a report on what you're doing to Corey. She'll get it to me.
Okay, done.
Every month, every week. And Elpa's going to move right to the top. And you can go there just like that. It's a decision. Let the past go.
Yeah.
I'm so happy and grateful. I let the past go. I just focus on the future, and it's phenomenal. I've given everything I got to what I'm doing right now. That's a deal, Elpa?
It's a deal.
Every week.
Yes.
Virtual handshake. Come on, virtual handshake. Give me a virtual handshake. There you go. Good. I think you're going to shock yourself.
Thank you.
You really are. You're going to love it. Okay? Thank you, Alpa. Thank you.
he was one man that transformed my life, and he's transformed the lives of millions of people all around the world through his awareness, through his teachings, through his dedication, through his sheer help of just wanting to help people get more out of life, to get the message across that you are here for more, to get the message across that you are born rich. And that was actually the name of one of his books, You Were Born Rich, one of his earlier books that he wrote. When I first saw the cover of that book, I thought, what do you mean I was born rich? But he's not talking about rich in just money. He's talking about rich in all aspects. If you really understand who you are, you truly can achieve anything. And that was one of his primary messages. Study you, he always used to say to me, Alpa, study yourself. Because when you study you, you'll understand who you truly are. And when you study you and you understand who you truly are, you're able to understand who others are. And you'll find that we're all the same. That was his one very strong and powerful message that I will never, ever forget. He really was the light in a lot of people's lives. And without getting emotional, I wanted to do this video today to pay my respects to a man who will always live on. And he'll always be in the hearts of many, many people. So I'm going to end the video, and I'm going to leave you with some memories, recordings of my meetings with him, and things that he said, and he's endorsed to me as well. I'm so grateful for the things that he's done for me to help me grow as a person, to help me grow in my business. Now being able to help others do the same as well, and help them grow, help them understand themselves, help them to get out of their own very way, because we are all in our way. If we just got out of our way, we could achieve so much more. And one of his favorite quotes I'd love to quote is, "It doesn't matter where you are nowhere compared to where you can go." And my final word that I just want to say is, touching on his very early book, You Were Born Rich. I am doing a 4-day masterclass on the new You Were Born Rich. All the information will be here inside of this group. If you want to register for this event, I'm doing it alongside my business partner. And this is going to be a phenomenal 4-day event with a bonus session as well. So actually, it's going to be 5 days. But it's going to be a phenomenal event where you will understand how to manifest any goal that you want using the law of assumption, understanding who you really are, and seeing the results that you want in a very, very short time. As I said, I've kind of moved out of the law of attraction space, and I'll explain to you why in this 4-day live masterclass. The new You Were Born Rich is starting February the 13th. If you want to find out more details, what I'll do is put a link below this video or above this video, wherever you'll see the link somewhere around this video. Just click on it if you want more information. It's a free masterclass. If you want to transform something in your life, if you've been trying to manifest something, but it just hasn't fruition for whatever reason that is, you'll understand in these 4 days as to why that hasn't manifested and how you can actually do that very, very quickly. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your time in watching, and share below your memories of Bob Proctor. If you've had any interactions with him, whether you've met him personally, whether you've watched his videos on YouTube. There's a ton of his videos. Of course, he's got his own channel. Whether you've read any of his books, share some of your memories and what you've achieved and what you've learned from this great, great, masterful man who I call the godfather of the personal growth industry. Love you, Bob. Miss you so much. But thank you once again for taking me under your wings and teaching me everything that you know. Thank you. Forever grateful.
Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. I'm here with Alpa Pendria, and she has an event coming up where she's teaching all of the material that my company produces. Do you know, for over 50 years, we have been studying why people do what they do, why they're not living the way they really want to live, getting the results they really want to get. You want to attend Alpa's event. Leave your information because she is one of our top consultants. Now, I want to congratulate you on the good work you're doing because Alpa can really help you, your organization, your family. Leave your information, look into this. You'll want to attend this event.